So I want you guys to give me more likes. Give me more likes.
Hello, and thank you for tuning into the Stuff I Heard podcast. I'm your host, Joshua Peak, and I hope you guys are looking at this on the YouTube channel, Joshua Peak's YouTube channel, or Stuff I Heard. I have redone the studio here, studio slash old bedroom of one of my kids. If you can see behind me, now you can clearly see the giant Boba Fett picture that's really cool with the helmet above that my buddy Greg gave me, and lots of little doodads in the back, some of which are Legos that are going to be built, and some t-shirts. If anybody wants some t-shirts, I got some t-shirts. Supplies are limited, though. Let me know. I want to talk about a few things. First of all, it's Memorial Day weekend, so cheers, everybody. Delicious. I went to the movies today. Okay, I'm going to start this off right off the bat, telling you about going to see Bert Kreischer's his movie, The Machine. Um, Many of you know that I'm a fan of Bert Kreischer. He is a very funny stand-up comedian. You can see 3 or 4 of his stand-up specials. Is it 3 or 4 or 5? I don't know how many. On Netflix. There's Secret Time, Birdie Boy. Um, God, there's so many. I'm trying to think of the names and suddenly I'm blanking. Anyway, that's not the point. The point is this: funny comedian. He he inspired me. Okay, he inspired me. He also entertains me. Back years ago, I was driving a semi truck, going on long distance drives that took me several hours to get there. And back then, technology wasn't what it is today. And I was having a hard time staying awake. I relied solely on a radio that would give me spotty reception at best. The radio would cut out for a good solid 40 minutes, where I couldn't find a station. And I was struggling to stay awake. Um, the job I had was very physical. I had to get up super early. I had to drive a long way. I had to deliver product and then drive back at the end of the day. And it was a very difficult task to stay awake on this journey. And a friend of mine that I was in the Marine Corps with, Garth Cadmium Blair. Sorry, I hate to throw out your middle name there, Garth, but very unusual name for a 6'5" Jamaican. Became a good friend of mine in the Marine Corps. And Mr. Blair, Garth, he turned me on to a podcast one day. I think the date of it was like 2010. It was Joe Rogan interviewing Bert Kreischer back when Rogan did his podcast out of a bedroom, much like it is with me right now, except I'm no Joe Rogan, and this is my bed. This is a bedroom. But Rogan would do it out of his house, out of a bedroom, and he interviewed Bert, and he says, "Hey, you got this crazy story that I've heard people talk about. Tell me about this." That was 2010, okay? 13 years ago. 13 years ago, Bert told the story about how when he was 22, he got involved with the Russian mafia, and he robbed a train in Russia and robbed his friends and his classmates and all that other stuff. And people hear parts of that and they go, "Well, that was awful. I can't believe he did that." And they don't hear the whole story. They don't listen to the comedy of it. They don't listen to the situation of it. The fact that in a way he was sort of, Forrest Gumping his way through a situation of partying with these guys so that these gangsters didn't hurt his classmates. That comes out in the movie. That description comes out in the movie. The movie is really good. The movie's funny. I'm curious as to what someone would think about it if they didn't know anything about Bert. So here's my ask of you guys. I don't ask much, okay? Um, let's say you know nothing about Bert or the movie or anything, and you go see this movie. What do you think of it? Because I've heard this story. I've heard the machine story told at least 200 times, because I've sought it out. I've seen it live probably 7 times now, I'm guessing around 7. I became a fan. I became a fan not because of the story, not because of the fact that he is sort of this um kind of a drunk idiot that seems to find his way out of situations by being fun. I like him because he's real. Okay. And I know that sounds crazy because his life seems a little unreal, but there's a part of his life that's very influential to me because he was taking a job to pay the bills to take care of his wife and kids as a host on a television show. He used to host several things on the Travel Channel and on FX. He's been the host of the X Show back when the Man Show was on TV. The X Show was supposed to be FX's reply to that or competition for that. Um, he also was on a show called Hurt Bert, where he took dangerous jobs. It was like Dirty Jobs meets Jackass. He would take really dangerous jobs and get hurt on every episode because the show was called Hurt Bert. So they would purposely hurt him on every episode. And they got around all the lawsuits of the way things work by making him an executive producer so that he couldn't sue himself. It was crazy. Now, he met his wife during this time, Leanne, and she is awesome. She is so much fun. I think she is probably the one of the biggest reasons that he is the success that he is because he loves her. He loves her so much that he's honest with her and that he tries to incorporate her into everything he has in his life and tries to tell her about everything and tries to support her. And people glaze over that because he has episodes on podcasts where he talks about the fact that, I'll never cheat on my wife and man, she's getting old and blah, blah, blah. And you know, he loves her to death. Um, And if you're a fan, you know this. You've seen him talk about it. You've seen him in podcasts where he talks about how much he loves his wife. And there is that weird duality of life going, wow, I can't believe this is where I am. I can't believe I'm this lucky. I can't believe I've gotten the opportunities that I've gotten. And sometimes life finds you in a situation where you find yourself in that situation that you happen upon it. His wasn't like that. I mean, in parts it was, but for a large part of it, it was just have fun in the moment. Um, Allow people to have happiness. I've talked on here before about how I don't dance. I'm not comfortable dancing. I'm not comfortable moving my body around and being joyous. I'm uncomfortable being joyous. I know that sounds really crazy to say, but it's odd for me to feel happy. I don't know why. I don't know. I mean, there's times where I feel contentment and general at ease, but nothing where I want to be super excited and yell and be happy. And when I became a fan of Bert, he was just learning how to podcast, basically because his friend Tom Segura, wouldn't let him go on the idea of starting a podcast. He had seen Joe do it. Tom had started his podcast. He had talked to Bert about starting your podcast, and he brought a bunch of equipment over. And somewhere between him and other comedians and other people who'd been on Joe's podcast, they set it all up. And I listened to the very first episode when it aired. Like I heard about it and I was like, I'm going to download it. I think I was one of the first 3,000 people to download it. I started following on social media the day I heard Joe's podcast, and I was like, he'd only had like 1,000 followers on anything. And I became a fan. I invested early in this guy that I thought, wow, I don't know what it is about this guy, but I like listening to him talk. I like listening to his stories. And with the podcast, he didn't know how it'd be except for to be his real self. And I thought, well, that's how I want to be in life. I want to be real. I want to tell people exactly what's going on. And sometimes some funny stuff happens, and sometimes I can share that with people. Sometimes I can allow the things that happen in my life to, I guess, teach me a lesson and then in turn teach other people a lesson. And so in my own life, I've turned into this person who constantly teaches people things because of my experience and because of my mistakes and because of the things that I've witnessed other people do. And hopefully I'm able to do it in a way that makes them happy. I know that sounds crazy, but ultimately that's what I want. I want to make people happy. I want people to have more happiness in their life than I have. Um, and I don't know why. Um, I don't know what it is. But Bert does that for me. When the Travel Channel show went away, when his touring seemed like it was going to suffer, He was slated to do a bunch of tours. One of them was going to pay him really well, and they canceled on him. He was sort of looking at life going, what do I do? And he was on a podcast. He was on a podcast, literally just having a nervous breakdown about the thing. And Duncan Trussell had come over to do a podcast with him. And he was really stressing out. And Duncan just stopped the whole thing. Duncan was like, listen, forget it. Forget that we're doing a podcast. Like, just let's just talk. What if you closed your eyes and I talked you through like a 10-minute meditation? What if we just imagined just for a second, and the listeners can do this too. And he said, just close your eyes for a second and think about where you are. Think about this room and think about the things in this room. These books on the table, they look like they've been leafed through. Okay, so right here on the table, you've got Ernest Hemingway. And you've read these books, right? And Bert's like, yeah, I have. And he was okay, so think about the fact that Ernest wrote these books and developed this life and developed these stories that enriched your life and gave you some kind of depth to you, and it meant something to you enough that you've read it. Not only have you read it, but you've put it on your desk here so that you can reread it. And it looks like it's been rewritten a couple times. And he's like, yeah, it has. And he's like, okay, so he goes, all over around you, there's people trying to tell you stories, and all you got to do is listen. Just take a moment and breathe. Just take a moment and listen. And there was something about that where Bert did have a moment to relax and a moment to breathe and a moment to think about what do I want to do next. And that moment of what I want to do next, he realized at a certain point, hey, I want to double down on me. I want to change the narrative of my life. I want to redefine who I am and what my worth is and how my worth is to other people. I heard him say one day, I want to do things so that if I'm not here, people will miss me. I want to affect them in a way that they're glad I'm around. And I thought that's a very interesting way to live. I like that. I think I want to do the same thing. And so while he's growing and while he's learning and while he's developing himself, I'm thinking to myself, okay, here's some things that I can do. I can double down on myself. I can believe in myself. I can find the joy. I can help people in a way that makes me missable if I'm not there. And so I emulated a lot of the things that he was doing in my own personal life, the things that I were doing, trying to, I guess, have a voice and have an audience that would listen and to maybe affect change in them. I wanted to be able to say some things or give you guys some nuggets of me that might help you as you get older. And I've lost a little bit of that along the way because I've been distracted or I've been, I guess, pressuring myself to do things in a weird time crunch or trying to find content where it was forcible and and it just felt wrong. It felt like I was trying to do things. It, it felt like I was dancing in a way that I don't. It felt like I was trying to communicate in a new language. But it's one of those things where through repetition, sometimes you have muscle memory and sometimes the things that you want to do come through. And along the way, I have had some moments where I've been able to have some really great podcasts and great conversations with people. And that's ultimately where I started this whole thing. I started this because I wanted to be able to have really good conversations with people and share with people the things that I've learned and hopefully enrich your lives in some way or leave that piece of me behind so that the next generation might find it or something. I don't know, something like that. So anyway, the movie's great. Go see the movie. Go see the movie with friends. I called up a bunch of people that I knew here in Florence and they were all busy. So I went and saw it by myself, but I did look at the seating. I did look at the movie chart. I did try to find some seats that were near some people because the way the movies are now, you can actually pick your seat. Thanks, COVID. That's one of those interesting things that I never thought would happen. But in that process, I couldn't sit like next to somebody. It wouldn't let me. It said I had to leave a gap. And I was like, okay, whatever. So I sat kind of in between some people and in the center of the theater. And it was great. I'm an old guy. I'm a dad, granddad now. um, so, I didn't want to go at night. I wanted to go during the day. I know I get sleepy at night. I don't want to be sleepy watching this fun movie. And but I was like, I don't want to go too early because then nobody's going to be in the theater, and I want to see it with people because I want to hear their laughter too. I want to react to their laughter. And so I think I picked it just right for me. There was about 30 people in the theater at a 1:15 in the afternoon on a Saturday movie matinee while it's Memorial Day weekend and raining outside. And listen, there's lots of competition at the movie theater right now. There's several movies out that are really big. You got the Super Mario movie that's still out. You got Guardians of the Galaxy that's just raking in the money. You got the Little Mermaid just came out. And what's up? Like, okay, so here's another tangent, but let's talk about the Little Mermaid for a second. Why do they have to remake the Little Mermaid? What was wrong with the first Little Mermaid? I mean, I get it. You want to make a live action because you're trying to get more money. But why do we recycle things so often? Is it that it's just a cash grab? I mean, because that's kind of how it feels. It feels like they had success with making one animated thing into a live action, and they thought we could do it with all of our stuff and really make it some money. And okay, fine, but also it's kind of lazy. I mean, it's really lazy. I don't know. I don't see the appeal. I don't want to go see it. I didn't see the Jungle Book. I didn't see Beauty and the Beast. I didn't see a lot of these movies that they made into live actions. I just don't care. Pinocchio. They talked about what a financial bomb it was to remake the last Pinocchio or the last Hook movie, Peter Pan movie, or whatever that was. Wendy, the whatever. It's on Disney. I haven't seen it. I don't want to see it. I feel like I've seen Peter Pan and a version of Peter Pan in 50 different ways, and oh, you made it again. Good for you. I mean, that's kind of how I feel like society is telling Hollywood, just stop remaking stuff. Make better stuff. Make better stuff. You want to know why the Avengers movies do real well? Because it's really good. They invest money into it. They invest time into it. They invest emotion into it. And you get some of the best actors in the world to play the parts. It's great. It's great stuff. I'm amazed that the Fast and Furious movies keep making money because it's the same movie no matter which one you watch. You get Vin Diesel that says the word family, and then they go and they shift gears even though they're going the same speed. They're always shifting into second and third. I don't know why. You're going like 60 miles an hour and then close up into the car. And I'm like, really? Okay, whatever. But hey, there's a lot of dumb people that love it. Listen, I'm a dumb person. I love Bert Kreischer. There we go. There we go. Just saying. So let's switch gears a little bit. Um, but I do want to say, go see Bert Kreischer's The Machine. It's great. Go with friends, have a good time, laugh. It was way more action packed than I thought. It's it's rated R. Okay, there's gonna be a lot of crass humor, and there's gonna be some violence and blood and gore, and wasn't expecting that, but it was done in a way that was hilarious because every time it happened, everybody in the crowd was laughing. Um, a lot of laughs in it. Leanne makes an appearance. Leanne is one of the. So I'm not even gonna tell you. She's in it. You're gonna see her. She passes by the screen. People who know her are gonna be like, "Hey, Leanne!" It's great. His wife's awesome. So go see it. The Machine. It rocks. Um, yeah. Okay. Switch gears real quick. Um, I got my knife. I know people were talking about. I was talking about going to Jeep in the Vines in North Augusta, Johnston, South Carolina, actually, for an event. Jeep in the Vines. They have a winery there. There's a Jeep event. A friend of mine, Danny Shaw, is a huge Jeep fan. Our buddies Mike Montrose and Bobby Driggers went. Um, it was great. We had a great time. It was a great day. It was a little bit chilly, a little bit overcast in the morning, but the sun came out. It warmed up. We had a few wine slushies, which was awesome. We had some pretty good food, and Charles was there. Charles Cypress. I'd done the YouTube video about him hand making me a knife, and I went to go pick it up, and I saw him that morning, and he was like, "You want to go ahead and take it now?" And I was like, "Well," I said, "Hang on a second." I said, we're here kind of early, and we're going to be here for most of the day. How about we just leave it on the table so that people walking by can see it, and maybe it'll help you sell some more stuff?" Because I was thinking that's kind of why I did this all to start with, is to promote you and to promote what you do, and to kind of you know promote community and help people in the community and that sort of thing. And so I left it on the table, and I said, I'll go do some other stuff. And I brought him some shirts. Brought him like three different kind of shirts, three different sizes of shirts. Um, that way, him and his wife and his friend Doug might have a shirt. And yeah, so got to promote him. We were walking around, looking at stuff, having a good day. And at a certain point, he texts me and he says, "Hey, if you get a chance, how about swing by here again? I gotta ask you a question." I was like, "Okay." So I walked by, and this lady, she was at the show. Her husband's birthday was coming up, and she wanted to know if she could buy that knife. And he told her, he said, "I'm sorry, but this one's already sold." And she was like, "I really want this knife." And he's like, "I can't sell it to you. It's not mine to sell anymore. I've sold it to somebody." And she was like, "Well, who'd you sell it to? Is he here?" And he was like, "Yeah." So he said, "Listen, I'm not going to pressure you. If you want to sell it, you can. If you don't, I understand. I've already told her no. But it's something to think about." And I was like, "Well, okay." And so I thought about it and I thought about it and I thought about it. And the more I thought about it, the more I thought, I'm not in a super hurry to get this knife. I mean, I've already paid for it, and I've been talking about him making me a knife for about a year. And we finally had a chance to get it done. And I'd gone there and I'd seen him making it, and it was really great. But here was this moment, and I thought, the nicer thing to do would be to just go ahead and let her buy it for me. Um, and I told her, I said, "Hey, I'm considering it." I bought the knife, and I said he makes them. He's got a sign up here, tells you what it costs for me to have it made. And she offered me a little bit more, and I was like, "Sold." So I sold it. I sold it. I had it in my hand twice, and I sold it. And then I bought another knife. I said, can you make me another knife?" So I bought another knife. So Charles Cypress is going to make me another knife. Check out his Facebook page, Cypress Custom Knives. That's Cypress Custom Knives on Facebook. And reach out to him. Tell him you heard him on the Stuff You Heard podcast. And we'll give you a little special heart or something. I don't know. I don't know. Something will happen. Something cool. So anyway, thank you, Charles. I appreciate it. Thank you to the young lady. Appreciate it. Hope your husband enjoys a knife. And yeah. So I want to talk about a surprise that we had at the Jeep and the Vines. There was a young artist there, country music artist named Cody Webb. Was great. We went there and we knew that last year they had some live music playing. And so we were like, okay, so last year they had some pretty good musicians here. We enjoyed it. And so we sat down and started hanging out and having a wine slushy and talking and looking around. And a band took the stage and they were having some technical issues. I don't know if it was technical issues or if it was a person that was having an issue, but they weren't great. Let's just say I heard them play the same song 3 times in a row about some guy named Wayne in jail, and I was like, "What? What are you singing about?" It wasn't for me. And I thought, well, at least we have wine slushies. It's not so bad, and the day's nice. And then about halfway through the day, I hear this different sound coming from the stage, and I was like, "That can't be the same band." And all of a sudden, one of our friends goes, "Oh no, that's the new band. They just talked about it. This guy, he's wrote music that's turned into like number one hits from like Luke Combs and Jason Aldean, and now he's performing solo." And I was like, "What?" He's got his own band now. Cody Webb, really great. Okay. I hear this song out of the corner of my ear where he's singing about his grandpa and spending the day on his lake with his Zebco 33. And I was like, Zebco 33? Oh, that's a fishing rod. I had a Zebco 33. I used to go fishing with my granddad all the time. Oh, okay. And I started listening a little closer. And I was like, I kind of like this guy. So then he does somebody else's song, and then he goes, okay, I got a new one here. I really like it. I think you guys will too. And he starts singing about this town ain't small enough. And I mean to tell you, it kicked me in the groin. It was so good. Talks about how much he loved his wife and how much he loved living in a small town. And you know, he doesn't want the town to get any bigger. He's got his friends, he's got his family, he's got his favorite place to eat. They know everybody in town. And when it gets bigger, it kind of scares him a little bit because he wants that small town life in life. And I think it hit me and my wife. Well, it hit me really hard. My wife really didn't listen. She wasn't paying attention at the time, but I went up there and I started filming the guy because I was like, this is really great. I want to share this with people. This town ain't small enough. And I was like, I enjoy this very much. Then he had a song about if mama didn't have a Bible and daddy didn't have a truck. And I was like, holy crap, I think I found my new favorite artist. This is awesome. He sang like 4 or 5 songs that were all super great. So anyway, I think John Boat is his #1 song right now. It's good too. Um, but we listened to him sing for the better half of the afternoon. Had a great day. Our buddy Mike Montrose won Best Show and Shine. He got a really cool award that they handmade. It was awesome. I got to ride back with Mike on the way back with the doors off, freezing because it was cold. The sun had gone down and it started to turn chilly. So we froze all the way back. But we had a good time, good day, and I found a new music artist that I really liked. So check out Cody Webb. He's pretty darn great. Um, okay, so I want to wrap this up by talking about one of my favorite shows ever, The Marvelous Miss Maisel. The finale was this week. Um, it was it was nothing less than perfect. It's rare that a show captivates you in the beginning, keeps you in the middle, and then finishes strong in a way that is satisfying. And this show does that. It's about being a stand-up comedian in a world where women weren't supposed to be vocal. I mean, stand-up comedy itself is really an American art that was only developed less than 100 years ago. And the fact that women could do it at a certain point, regardless of what the rules were, is really important for history, I think. And she represents, I know I've talked about this before, but she's sort of her character is sort of based upon Joan Rivers' life, but not necessarily. It's not an autobiography. It's a fictionalized character, but they incorporate a relationship with Lenny Bruce, and I've heard Rogan talk about him so much. I've heard other comedians talk about their revere for Lenny Bruce, and I've heard in documentaries how George Carlin and Richard Pryor looked up to Lenny Bruce and emulated him in a lot of ways because he was one of the first people to really challenge the ability for you to say things on stage without getting arrested for it. I mean, and they got all three of them got arrested for saying things on stage that today is just common. But back then there was a decency thing that people could just go, I don't like what you're saying, and they would arrest you. Didn't matter what it was, didn't matter if it was decent or not. They could just say that they think you're indecent and you'd be arrested. And Lenny Bruce challenged a lot of the rules of what you could say. He challenged the rules of language. He he was a poet in a lot of ways. And in Miss Maisel's show, they even have a thing at the end saying, "Thank you to is it Haley Bruce," which I gotta think is gotta be his daughter. But man, what an interesting character. Miss Maisel's character is awesome. Midge is so impressive. Susie is so impressive. Their dynamic together is just I don't know how they're ever going to create characters like this again. They were vulnerable and powerful and funny and loving and challenged and inspirational all at once. During the next to last episode, her father, Abe, sits down to have dinner with his friends. And he's normally a very wordy guy. He likes to talk a lot. He has very good education, um, and an escalated IQ. And he sits down to talk to his friends, and his friends are like, what's up, Abe? You're normally I bring you here because you're such a good conversationalist, and you're a wordsmith, and he goes into this very wonderful discussion about his daughter and about how proud he is of her, and he's never told her. how proud he is. And he said, I don't think I've ever discussed the fact that I don't even own my house. My daughter does. I I doted on my son. I pushed my son and I didn't care for anything that my daughter had done and now she has turned this thing that I used to think was just a goofy hobby and she's turned it into a job that's been paying the bills and then she's she bought our house and everything I have is because of her and I haven't even told her that I appreciate her or that I it was that moment of being a father where you suddenly realize that your kids are okay and he goes I failed at even telling her that I'm proud of her. But it was, I don't know, there's something about the speech that was perfect because I think in a lot of ways, that's what everybody wants. They want their parents to be proud of who they are because growing up, I mean, you know, they're raising you. So somewhere along the way, there's the impression that you have to impress them, right? And maybe it's through our merits, maybe it's through our achievements, maybe it's through our whatever. I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with this. I'll tell you what. Write me. Tell me. What do you think it is? What do you think it is? I mean, it's the same with Bert Kreischer. He made a movie about trying to impress his dad and about trying to take care of his daughter and not really knowing what to do. And all along the way, we all try to figure this stuff out. We don't talk about it as much as we should, probably because we're too busy trying to protect ourselves and protect our loved ones from harm or danger or embarrassment or whatever. I don't know. Maybe this is why I can't seem to find the joy to dance. I don't know. I'll tell you when I did feel joy. I felt joy the first time I went to see Bert Kreischer. I got to go with my brother. That was pretty joyous. I felt joy when I got to take my buddy Greg to see Bert for the first time. And we had front row seats in Charlotte. And he was like, holy crap, we're in the front row. And I was like, yeah, I know. We have adult money now. We can do whatever we want. that was that was pretty joyous. I had joy. I had joy playing with my grandson and seeing him learn from something that I taught him. I had joy watching my wife get excited over Mickey Mouse or the fireworks. I had joy seeing my mom super excited getting to hug Minnie Mouse. Yeah, I guess I'm chasing joy. I can tell you this past week, Cody Webb brought me joy. Charles Cypress brought me joy. My wife brought me joy. Miss Maisel brought me joy. And Bert Kreischer's The Machine brought me joy. So go find her joy. Go find the thing that makes you happy. Yeah. Cheers, Bert. You did a great movie. It was so good. I'm proud of you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Please remember to rate, review, subscribe, share with your friends. Thank you, Leinenkugel, for making a really good beer. And as always, cue the cow.
Cue the cow. Moo, baby.